Welcome to Histories, episode 3. So episode 3 will be about Christopher Columbus Day and the controversy that surrounds around this celebration. So quick background of this issue. It's really become a bigger issue the last 10, 20, 30 years, where we've seen numerous countries that have celebrated this day in the past no longer celebrate anymore. For example, we have Venezuela, who's changed it to the Indigenous Resistance Day. We've seen Costa Rica back in 1994 change it to the Day of Cultures. In the United States of America, we actually see not just one or two, but 4 states, Alaska, Hawaii, and Oregon, and South Dakota, no longer celebrating this holiday. Now, personally, I think he is an evil, manipulative, serial killer psychopath who is egocentric, greedy, and only cares for himself. But with that said, history has various different angles, various different perspectives, and I will try my best to use this video as a way to defend Christopher Columbus Day. And the reason why is also because some of you in my class will have this task of defending Columbus come the Columbus Day court activity later in May. Now, a reason why to support him. Number one, he was a pioneer for the West. Without Columbus, we would no longer see these settlements by the English, the Germans, the Dutch. Right? He was the pioneer for European settlements. So without Columbus, we would not have the United States of America that we have today. We also had the Columbian Exchange. We've seen so many goods cross the ocean based on Columbus. We see corn, potatoes, tomatoes, bananas make their way to Europe. Imagine Ireland without potatoes. We see animals like horses and pigs make their way to the Americas, right? Imagine Native Americans without horses. We see with all these trades, things like pizza in Italy would never exist without the Columbian Exchange. Now, another very important point here is about how life was before Columbus's arrival, and that this lifestyle was quite violent. In fact, 1 out of 3 men, archaeology shows, died from homicide. And Native Americans enslaved each other. If you look at the Aztec Empire, slavery existed. Not only slavery existed, but rituals, which included sacrifice and cannibalism, were not uncommon. So this narrative of Europeans coming in and destroying peaceful Native Americans is not quite accurate. Furthermore, going along this line of thinking, it's not like the Native Americans had these official borders and respected the borders and never controlled each other's territories. Instead, people would just go and conquer territories next to them if they had the capability to do so. In other words, the strongest survived. So therefore, when the Europeans came and quote-unquote stole the land of the Native Americans, this was already going on for hundreds of years between and amongst Native Americans. Europeans were just simply adapting to that culture that already existed. Now, moving on. Patriotism. So, Columbus Day encourages patriotism, encourages Americans to love their nation and the birth of America. And one thing we have to keep in mind is that there's holidays like Columbus Day all around the world, whether it's the Belgians celebrating the Belgian national holiday, which some could consider controversial given the background of Belgians in the Congo, or the Germans celebrating the Reformation Day, something that perhaps could be considered offensive to Catholics, or people in New Zealand celebrating Waitangi Day every February 6. We also have a few other quick rebuttals here. What about Eric the Red? Wasn't he the first one to find the Americas? Well, yes, he did get there first, but he never really settled, and he didn't make the type of impact Columbus made, like the Columbian Exchange. Well, Columbus was a violent man, therefore we should not celebrate such a violent individual. Well, when we look at military and political leaders throughout history, let's say Napoleon, for example, they tend to use power and force, whether this be Alexander the Great or Napoleon or Cyrus, and therefore this argument that Columbus is violent is not really, it's not hold much water. The blood of millions is on Columbus's hands. Well, yes, many Native Americans did die due to diseases, but it's not like Columbus used biological warfare. In fact, 90% plus of those who died in the Americas were due to diseases that Columbus did not intend to infect the locals with. Therefore, we could consider these as more of unfortunate accidents rather than the genocide of millions. So, quick review. 1. Columbus opened the way for future settlements. Without Columbus, we wouldn't have the English settling, and without the English settling, we would not have the United States of America today. Without Columbus, we wouldn't have the Columbian Exchange. That means no pizza. No Columbus, no pizza. The pre-Columbian times are not amazing. Right? Warfare was regular. Slavery was regular. In fact, cannibalism and ritual sacrifices existed. So it's not like the Spaniards came and wiped out a very peaceful group of people. Number 4, there are controversial holidays everywhere, so why pick on Columbus? That's pretty straightforward. Number 5, Leif Erikson, yes, did arrive first before Columbus, but he did not stay and settle. Right? There was no Ericksonian exchange, but there is a Columbian exchange. And finally, the death of millions of Native Americans did occur upon the arrival of Columbus, but this was an unfortunate sequence of events, and it's not like Columbus and his crew were using biological warfare trying to kill millions of Native Americans through diseases. Yes, they did kill many Native Americans, but these figures of millions and millions is simply not true and very misguided. So should we celebrate Columbus Day? The answer is a very, very strong yes. Now that was just an example of me arguing for why I would say yes to Columbus. Personally, I don't find Columbus Day to be appropriate. But then again, there's arguments always for and against various events in history. So what is your opinion?